Welcome back to another weekly analysis video. This analysis is for the week of December 14th, 2025. As always, we'll start off with a review of last week's price action and then move into the analysis for the upcoming week. It's almost Christmas. Just under 2 weeks away. I am a little bit strapped for time, so this review and analysis video will be a little shorter than normal. So let's jump into it. So as expected, as I said, I was neutral for the week. I really didn't have a direction, but if I had to choose a direction, I would choose the upside. So here's the open for the week, Monday, December 8th. The price initially going into Wednesday was trading a little higher. Now, it did not create any new highs relative to the high of the week last week or anything like that. And then on Friday, we had a nice down close into the middle of this range in here, okay? Between this orange line of 25,515 and 24,786. So now we're in the middle of that roughly, okay? And recall what I said, how it could just bang around in this range, below it, above it, and within it. Now, I did not really want to see price action go this far and then return back into that range. That's ideally what I didn't want to see. Okay, but now we're back in this range and we're not really doing a whole lot. So as you can see, this is what I mean by staying neutral. There's not a clear direction as to where price wants to go at the moment based on a daily chart. You can still do a lot of day trades, but from a longer term perspective, at the moment, nothing's set in stone. So this is typical of going into the end of the year where volume starts to die down and we see price action like this. So nothing new here. Let's go ahead and move on into the hourly chart. Alright, on to our hourly chart now. We have the open here at December 7th, 1800. And if we take a look at all the price action that occurred up until around Friday, okay? Friday is this area in here, okay? It just consolidated above the 25,515 level. Okay, now, again, I'm not going to go into the day trades that occurred last week, but there are day trades in here that you could trade around these levels, okay? As it relates to a longer term direction, whether it's being bullish or bearish, up or down, nothing solid, okay? Spoiler, I'm still neutral on the market, believing that we will just sit around in this range. And that's just basically a short summary of what I believe will happen next week. But again, I draw your attention back into this. There's not a one-sided direction at all. It's just consolidating and meandering above this level, and now we're back in this range. Not a whole lot going on. And again, I have to emphasize, this is typical price action going into the end of the year. Let's go ahead and move on to the 15-minute chart. Okay, on to our 15-minute chart now. Again, we have a more refined view of this consolidation in here. Consolidating the majority of the week and then finally breaking down on Friday into here. Now, because we're back into this range, we can explore lower. However, there's no solid direction. Again, typical price action for the end of the year. And because there's no solid direction, there's not a high probability, I wouldn't say high probability, but there's not a lot of high probability trades. Put it that way, okay? Because it can go both ways at the moment, okay? And until we really break out of this particular range convincingly, which if we look back, 2-3 weeks ago, I'd say, we tried breaking out of it, and I was willing to submit to maybe it's moving lower, but it went right back into this range, as I discussed previously. That was 2 to 3 weeks ago. So there's no firm direction based on a higher time frame. We're still consolidating and we're working around this range, 24,786 to 25,515. Now, based on how we entered this range and what we're doing now, it could traverse to the lower portion of this range in here, which would be a discount. We're in a discount market now, so ideally you don't want to be selling in discount markets, you want to be buying. But because of the condition that it's in, it could reach all the way down into 24,786. And we'll discuss that going into the weekly analysis for next week. Okay, so we're back on our daily chart here for the weekly analysis for the week of December 14th, 2025. As you can see, we consolidated last week, and on Friday we had a down close back into this range in here. I still believe it wants to bang around in here. Now, where we're currently at on the chart, price could find support in here, try to rally out of that range, or find resistance in here and break down a little lower. And we'll discuss more on that a little bit on the lower time frames. Still a neutral market because of the time of year we're in. Again, volume dies down, price action shows less high probability signatures, and when those signatures do happen, they don't tend to hold up a lot of times, and it can be a little frustrating because things that you usually see that work don't tend to work during this time of year, and so you have to proceed with caution. Still a neutral bias with a slight bullish undertone. I still don't believe we're done going higher. However, if we start breaking down lower below this could be an area of interest, and if we start breaking below that low, I do believe we will target here. It's just a matter of weighing out what happens when we leave this range and in what direction. That's what I'm waiting for. I need more information, because once it leaves this range, and I don't care which direction it leaves it in, I'll know what it's reaching for. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on into the hourly chart. Onto the hourly chart here, we can see a bit more of a refined view of that expansion back into the middle of this range in here. It did that on a Friday. Now, there's a couple things that could happen in here. One, we could find support in here, start rallying a bit, closing some of this range, and then want to traverse higher above 25,515. Or price remains and sees resistance, therefore seeing bearishness, expanding through the middle of this range into here and into here. Just weighing out to see what happens and the types of reactions and movement we get around the current levels it's at now. So this level in here and this level in here. Just gauging to see what happens and how we open going into next week. So there's only about two scenarios that could happen, okay? And because we're in a neutral position right now, I don't have a firm direction or position that I want to take. So I have to wait for more information and demand more than what I usually would compared to, say, the summer and fall of this year, okay? Where I knew where it was going, which was higher. And you saw me call that throughout the summer and throughout the fall, okay? Whereas now, because of the current price action environment we're in, which is end of year price action, volume dying down and things showing not very good probabilities, I have to wait for more information. I have to demand more. And so that's the position that I'm in now. And that's okay. I don't need to trade during the month of December and the early parts of January. I can wait until things clear up and then go in when price is showing much higher probabilities for things to actually happen. Okay, and on to our 15-minute chart here. We see a more refined view. Let's go ahead and look in this area in here. So based on what it's currently done, we reacted off the equilibrium area, the middle of this range in here, came back above 25,272 and broke down below it. Now if it remains firm in here, it looks like it wants to target the downside in the short term. And because it may want to target the downside in the short term, the next objective will be 25,029 and perhaps spread its wings to 24,786. That's just the initial first impressions that I see to what price is doing now. But again, because we're in that neutral environment, because we're in a low probability condition, I have to wait for more information. I have to demand more. So it's not, let's say this was in the fall. If it were showing these signatures in here, then I'd be more inclined to take a short with the information that I'm being given now. Okay, I'd still wait for a little more information, but this is a good sign. But because we're in the condition we're at now, I have to demand much more. So that makes trading more difficult. So, just to recap quickly, we still have a neutral bias, low probability conditions, and I do still admittedly have a slight bullish undertone, but that could change if we start breaking down really below 24,786. So it's just a matter of waiting for more information and seeing what price tells us. So with that being said, that's going to conclude the weekly analysis for the week of December 14th, 2025. As always, take care and God bless.